and someone that I know has a really inspirational story to her business journey. Um, there's many people out there who are working in. Excuse me, I'm fighting off a bit of a horse sore throat here, so thankfully she'll do most of the talking today. But I know there's so many of you out there that very much have this dream. You have a day job, or you work at a corporation, or you're doing something like that, and maybe it is a good job. Maybe you do enjoy it, maybe you don't, but it's dependable, at least, or it has been for a while. But you still have that desire to do your own thing. You still have that desire to go out. Hey, this is okay, but I want to be able to live my own life. I don't want to be doing things for everyone else all the time. I want to have my own thing. Maybe you want to have your own coaching business, or maybe you want to sell courses, or maybe you want to speak on stage and or train in organizations and things like that. And the thing is that I am sitting here going, that's our audience. That's really their dream and their goal. And I'm like, I have somebody who has done that. I mean, I have someone who I considered a dear friend and who has done that very thing. And she is, I found this out a few years ago when I was talking to her. I said, we were talking about somebody who was pretending to be a C-suite executive, and I was having a conversation with Chellie, and all of a sudden started asking her, so what exactly is your role in the company that you work for? And I had to keep prodding, and I had to keep probing and asking further questions, because I'm like, wait a minute, you're a C-suite executive, are you? And Chellie, although she's very humble about it, admitted, yes, I am. And so we have somebody who not only built an incredible career at a corporation and a company, has also now built her own business on the side. And she's a coach, she's a course creator, she speaks on lots and lots of stages, and she's written multiple books. One of her she's got what I'll call adult books and children's books. Um, Her most recent adult book was Culture Secrets, which is a fantastic book, especially if you read chapter one, which was hint hint written by someone you may be familiar with. When in doubt, delete it. Get noticed, get hired. And she has a series of 5 children's books coming out now. The first 2 are already out. The Case of the Vanishing Birthday Presents and The Case of the Missing Sneakers. And so for this show, I want to welcome Chellie Phillips. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now.
Well, I know the only thing I have to worry a little bit about, excuse me, is you know me well enough that I'm like, oh, do I
What secrets do I
Yes,
share?
yes. Don't share those secrets. Those are not the secrets we want to hear about today. Let's just let those be. So, Chellie, I'm just going to start it off this way, since obviously my voice is not exciting here today. It's hanging on, but your journey is inspirational to many people. I mean, what you've done is what so many people want to do. You are kind of like that person that people are striving to be. Can you just tell us a little bit about how all of this got started for you?
Yeah, well, and I appreciate you saying that. I look at it as it probably got started long before I ever even realized that it was making an impression on me. My dad had his own business. He grew up owning his own business, and I watched him, over the entire course of my life build a business, retain his customers, retain his employees, you know, be successful in what he was doing and love getting up, going to work every day. And, I am blessed that I am in a corporate career that I love as well. I get to do the stuff I enjoy every day, but I think I've always had that spirit in me that I want something that's my own. I want to be able to create something. I want to be able to impact lives. I want to be able to do something that's going to make a difference. I mean, as early as middle school, I remember we were making barrettes and braided barrettes and stuff and selling them to our friends and different things like that. And so there's always been that little piece in me that is like, I want to create something and have it be mine and like be able to do it and that kind of thing. And so after years in corporate and I tell everybody, I said, it's if sometimes things happen in life that's a kick in the pants that you really need, and sometimes when they happen, they don't feel like they're great experiences happening, but when you step back and you look at it 7, 8, 9, 12 months later, you realize it's the best thing ever that could have happened. In my case, I had been at a job for 21 years. We got a new CEO in, and the whole organization shifted at that point in time. I no longer had a seat at the table. I no longer felt valued. I no longer felt like the skills that I brought were even appreciated or even recognized. And that became crystal clear one night when I got an email from him basically asking if my skills came from a box of Fruit Loops. And, that was the kick in the pants that I needed to realize that, I don't need to stay someplace that I'm gonna be unappreciated and I'm just gonna be miserable. And, when you have 21 years someplace, it's really hard to make that decision to walk away because you're vested in the people there, you're vested in all the benefits and the programs and that kind of thing. But I just needed that one last push. Things were not right. I knew they hadn't been right for about 6 months. And that's the one last push that pushed me to let's try something new. So it opened the door to the new corporate opportunity, which somehow, I tell everybody, I said that was what opened up me to be able to do the rest of the things that I did. Because when I took the new job and the new opportunity, that's when I wrote my first book. That's when I kind of put everything into place, and got that started. And then I got started telling my story, and I got started building my courses, and I got started doing all of that stuff. And one piece led to another, and it's just slowly grown over the last 4 years to where it's something now that I'm really proud of, and that's, that, I tell everybody it's my retirement plan. When I get tired of getting up at 6 in the morning, coming to work and doing all those things, then I have this in place where I can walk away, I can still do the things that I enjoy, I can still have that impact, I can still feel like I'm making a difference, but yet it's on my terms at that point in time.
Yeah, I know that Fruit Loops cereal box story. That's a powerful one. I mean, sometimes those motivations come in very unpleasant ways. And I can only imagine how you must have felt that day, because here you are, someone who clearly knows what she's doing. You're clearly good at what you do, and yet for someone to say something like that is just like a slap in the face and a real wake up call that, like, okay, it's sometimes I feel like God does allows those things to say it's time for you to do something else, and I'm going to let something unpleasant happen to get
So
you
that you'll make a change,
to get
yes.
you to move, to get
Mhm.
you out of where you are and get you going on your own world. So tell us a little bit about the business that you've created for yourself. How did that kind of evolve? What does that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, so I started with the first book, the When in Doubt, Delete It, and I call that book, it's kinda like a personal success journey guide, and, like, it was if you're sitting on the front porch with all of your best friends and you're discussing the world and everything you wished you had known that, like, these are the things I wished I'd known when I was making these decisions younger and that kinda thing, that's this book. It walks you through. There's 5 what I call life edits because I'm a writer, I've been a journalist, we use the edit marks all the time. It made easy reference for me. So there's things you begin, like, like new opportunities. There's things you move towards or away from, which can be certain people in your life at certain times.
Mhm.
There's things that you need to insert. And that for me, that's like gratitude and celebration and not getting hung up on the next big thing before we celebrate the thing that we just accomplished. And then, you know, one of the things in there is like being authentic to yourself. And so after writing that book, it led to some coaching opportunities because people were like, I want to know more. I want you to, like, walk me through this. How do you do that kind of thing? And then for years before, I volunteered with a sorority and I had women 18 to 22, and these were high achieving women. The people that I dealt with most were our leadership in the organization. They were the officers. And what I kept finding more and more was that they would go to graduate, they'd walk across the college stage, get their diploma. And if they didn't get a job right off in their field, What would happen is 6, 8 months later when they finally got the offer, they would get an offer that was six to $8,000 less than someone who took it right out of college because they were looking at their work experience as a barista or as a temp or as a cashier or something, and it somehow or another dumbed down the education that they had just gotten over the past 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And what I found was that it was that these women that you get really attached to these ladies after you spend 4 years with them and you see their lives and what's happening and everything, is that they just hadn't learned how to sell themselves as the asset that they were in the corporate kind of environment. And so instead of it just being, "Oh, well, I was just kind of a cashier for a while," or whatever, then, instead of that kind of approach to it, you had to learn to sell it as, "I dealt with customer interactions. I helped manage situations. I was financially responsible. Like, I showed up. I was able to be dependable." Like, there's ways that you can present those skills. While it may not be the skills that are actually in your field, they make you an even better worker in the field that you're in because you already have this and you've already showed that you're a responsible worker. And so that led to the second book, The Get Noticed, Get Hired. It's more for young professionals, how to show up in the workplace, how to get noticed for the right reasons. Social media is such an issue with people these days. There's a whole lot in there talking about how like how we need to present ourselves, how to do it effectively on LinkedIn, and to make sure that all your profiles are working together. And then once you get hired, how do I show up there so that I continue to be seen as a rising star? And so that kind of shifted me a little bit to where I was doing more career coaching, like how do I get the first job? And that led to my courses. And then I was like, well, I have the personal journey and I have the young professional journey. And if I'm sending them out into the workforce, I need to tell them what to look for in a company that they want to work for, where it's going to be great. And that led to the Culture Secrets book. And Culture Secrets has been a passion of mine because as part of my corporate job, I was able to create a program internally where we develop our employees, where we actually invest in them, help them with their leadership, help them grow professionally, and we work on that culture inside our organization. And so the stuff I learned putting it together kind of translated to the book. This is what you should be looking for in the leaders that you're working for and the environment that you want to be in. And I was able to talk to a lot of great people to be able to put that resource together, like Gary Ridge with WD-40, Stephen Childs with Panasonic, David Branderhorst talking about how entrepreneurs can build culture with their communities and stuff, because culture really impacts us everywhere. And so that's really led to the speaking side and the corporate training side of what I'm doing now, is because people want to, well, how do I teach my people to do these things? Or how can we show that we're investing in them? So it's allowed me to really expand. Each little step has kind of built on the previous one. And it's allowed me to grow and expand and really get into an area that I'm loving right now, which is that corporate training piece, that speaking piece, which is all about encouraging and developing people and then helping us build these solid work communities where people want to stay, where they feel like they're thriving, where they feel like they're valued. And ultimately, that means the business is going to be successful too, because if you got employees that are showing up, excited about working for you, putting their all into it, there's no way you can't be successful.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think one of the things that you kind of said, but I wanted to emphasize a little bit was just listen to Chelly's story and how it evolved over time. And so many times when I talk to people, are like, "Well, I just want to go speak on corporate stages." But when you hear Chelly's story, that's not where it started. Chelly went with where she was at that point in her life. What if it was starting out with the first book, when in doubt, delete it, and then it, moved on about the getting noticed and getting hired. And so she kept working with the stage of life that she was in, and she kept working on that piece until eventually, yeah, I mean, when I um did a little bit of work with you on your Culture Secrets book, um it was becoming very clear that this is something that can be spoken on stage, that this is something that companies are going to want to need, because culture, like, I learned a lot from you relating to how important culture is in a company. And it made it so clear just about how, if you don't have the right culture, the cost to the bottom line is massive, because you have high employee turnover, you have low productivity. People are just punching the clock and leaving. They're not wanting to be there. No one's invested in the game. And all of that comes from the leadership. All that comes from how the business is run and operated, how people are treated. And so often we view those as soft skills, but boy, do they have a huge, hard number impact. That bottom line gets impacted heavily. So I just, like I said, your story, the evolution of how things have continued to build for you, I think is just, again, I think it's inspirational to people to just understand, take with what you have with where you are today, work with it, build it, and keep developing yourself as the years go on. And when you do, these things happen. All of a sudden, you keep working your way into that next opportunity. Now, Chellie, as you were doing all these things, obviously you're working a full-time career and you're building a business. There had to be times where that was a lot to try and keep all that going. Were there times where you wanted to just say, forget it? This is too much. I want to quit.
Yes, and full transparency, you were probably a coach for me during some of those points and
Yeah.
times. I remember several conversations that we had. It's like, is this even worth doing anymore? Like, do I just need to scrap it and say to heck with it? Um, I mean, it can be very frustrating. Like you have this idea and this passion, and like it makes perfect sense in your head, and you're like, this is the best thing ever. And you put it out in the world, and it's like crickets chirping. Nobody's taking advantage of it. And, for me, a lot of that came from, like when I was, especially with the course creation and putting some of the courses out and things like that, is like I was like, people are going to snap this up, like they need this so much. And like, and truthfully, honestly, I still feel like they need it. Maybe I didn't package it right. Maybe I didn't do whatever I need, like maybe it just wasn't the right time for it or whatever. But the information in there, people still need. But it can be so frustrating when you feel like you have good content and stuff like that, and nobody is, like, you keep checking your email. Did somebody subscribe? Please tell me somebody subscribed. And they don't do it. And then it's easy to start doubting yourself and
Mhm.
start doubting the message that you have. And, that being resilient, I think, is one of the things that makes entrepreneurs and even business people in general successful, is because not everything is going to go the way you have it planned out in your head. And the thing that makes people successful is being able to be adaptable and not giving up when it gets hard. And, you know, and not, it's so easy, like I'm one of those, I get very attached to my ideas and my things. And, sometimes it's hard to go, okay, well, I still think this is a good idea, but apparently it's not the right time for it. I need to put this on the shelf and move on to something else, or either figure out how to adapt it and turn it into something else. And so, that's probably the hardest piece. And, I remember so many frustrating attempts at, Facebook ads and different things like that, funnels that got launched that, would get 4 or 5 clicks. And you're like going, I've spent months building this funnel and I got 5 clicks on it. It's such a waste of time and that kind of thing. But I got some really great advice um, from another friend of mine that is an entrepreneur and very successful at what they do. And what they challenged me to do was look at each 90 days
Mhm.
and, like, for every quarter, make a list of all the things that you want to celebrate, all the wins that you had that month. It could be, I had a discovery call with somebody. It could be, I spoke here. I had someone buy a book. It can be even small things. Like, because if you look at it over the course of 90 days, you're going to start seeing that things are happening. They may be small things happening, they may be small things moving, but you're going to start seeing a pattern that if I am consistent and I am showing up and I'm doing the things that I need to do, then I'm going to start making progress. And small steps are progress, just like giant leaps are progress.
Mhm.
And as that entrepreneur, and I'm a I'm a goal getter, and I'm performance driven kind of person. And sometimes if I don't reach that target that I had for me, it feels like I failed, even if I came 2/3 of the way to that target, which is 2/3 more than I had the month before. And so, being able to kind of shift the way I looked at things. about whether it was a success or whether it was making an impact and being able how to do that. I think that was such an important step for me is and to realize that yes, what you're doing is having benefited, is making a positive impact. It's just happening at a different pace than what you had set for your mind to begin with. And then not giving up on it. And, I have a great support system. I have great people around me that encourage me along the way. I strongly, find those people in your life that are going to encourage you. You
Mm.
need those truth tellers too that are going to look at you and go, you know, you're spinning your wheels here. You need to tweak it. You need to do something a little bit different. I understand where you're going, but this is not the path that's going to get you there.
Right.
I want to, like you need those truth tellers too, but you need those people that are with you on the journey that are going to help you along the way. And I'm blessed with that circle of friends and family that have done that for me. And like I said, I had a dad that I got to watch growing up that very much had that entrepreneurial spirit and that cheered me on the whole way, even though what I did was totally different than what he did. he
Mm.
he got it. He knew the challenges and what it was like to build something from scratch and make it happen. And so, yeah, I think anybody who tries anything is gonna have those moments where you just like, "Is it worth it? Do I need to just put it all in a box and pretend I never even did this and go throw it in the dump somewhere?" But I really encourage you that if you have a passion for something and you know that it's gonna really impact people in a positive way, that you stick to it and that you just find a way to adapt and move forward.
Yeah, I think that's really inspirational. And I think one of the things that, what you're basically saying is, and I've said this to other people in the past as well. I said, the difference between people who are successful in creating their own business and those who are not is simply grit. And far too many people will try it for a little while, they'll dabble in some things, and it didn't all just, immediately take off and become an overnight success, and they walk away and forget it. Whereas other people like you who are facing those moments where, okay, I spent months building this funnel and I got 5 clicks. Well, that can be incredibly disheartening when things don't go nearly as well as you had hoped. But you never quit. You just keep persisting. You just keep, all right, I'm going to go to the next thing. I'm just going to keep working on this, or I'm going to keep doing that. And I think that is a testament to why you are where you are today, because of that. So let's then fast forward more to today, where things are now. You're now getting invited to speak on stages like everywhere. Um, if we look behind your shoulder, I see some of the awards from there. To the best of my knowledge, you've probably had to build shelves and shelves to hold all of the awards that you've won, because I've seen like the table you said you came back from one event, had like 7 awards or something like that. I was like, oh my word, she's gonna have to build an addition onto the house the way she's going. But how did all of this? Because like you're now doing what so many people would love to do. How did you get to this point now where all of a sudden you're speaking all over the country?
I'll say the first thing is that it's all about taking opportunities when they show up at your door. You can't be afraid. You know, I remember the first time I was asked to speak at a conference. It was not a paid event. It was in my industry and things like that. And I was asked to talk about a program that we had launched that had won an award. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I've got to get on stage in front of 250 people and talk. And I mean, okay, so I'm not a shy person, I'm not bashful, but there's something about, okay, there's gonna be 250 sets of eyeballs in my field looking at me that are gonna know if I screw something up that or whatever that, you know, and so, there's that, do I do it? Do I not do it? Da, 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 da. And just taking that opportunity and saying yes. I think is one of the biggest things that people can do to really get themselves on that journey and get started. And, that one speaking at a conference led to another one, and it got me experience, it got me exposure in my industry. And then people started reaching out for paid events and different things like that because they had heard me talk at different things before. And it gives you that chance to be able to really get comfortable in what you're doing. It gives you that authority and that credibility that you can tell somebody, "Yes, I do have experience doing this. I've done, I've been on these stages and I've been able to share these different messages." And, like while my personal business is different than what I speak at corporately, industry-wise sometimes, because I work in the electric industry professionally. And so I'm talking things about crisis communications, outage communications, smart meters, like you name it. I can talk about that in our industry and things like that. On the flip side, my personal business is talking about the culture that we come from and how to build leaders inside organizations. All that comes from my experience in being in the workforce and being frontline with it every day and helping build people inside the organizations that I work for. But I took those early experiences in my corporate career to really lay the foundation and get some exposure and get some experience where people were not afraid to take a chance on me and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, she can talk about this. We've seen her do that. So let's give her a chance with her own stuff and see how it's going." And, just saying yes sometimes, um, I've spoke at some women's events with, like my personal success story and things like that. And just getting real comfortable with putting your message out there and not being afraid to do that. And I said, I remember times that you and I've talked and, like you're like, I'm seeing you everywhere. Like, I can't believe this is happening right now. It's like it, and and I look back and go, it's been a 4-year journey. It didn't happen overnight.
Mhm.
The last year and a half looks like, oh my God, everything's happening. But it's only happening because everything came before it and got it ready to do. And, if you're on the outside looking in and you see somebody that's, they're showing up everywhere and they're doing these kind of things, I promise you 90% of the time, it's not because they just hit on something right then in that very moment. It's because it's been this slow progression over time and they've just stuck with it and they've kept it going. And, that's the thing that I go back to is that you just have to be resilient. You have to be willing to say yes when things come your way. Give it a try, see if it works, see if it fits. And and then also the other thing that I'd say is that yeah, I'm a good Southern girl. I'm from South Alabama. I live in Georgia now. I was raised as you don't really talk about yourself. You don't brag about yourself. And, that's sometimes hard for people to put themselves out there and say, "I wanna tell you what I'm doing. Can I share with you what I'm doing and see if we have an opportunity to work together?" You have to get past that point where it's uncomfortable selling yourself. In one of the books I talk about, we're our biggest assets. All these companies have all these equipments, they have these product lines, they have these software, everything to get the job done, but they couldn't get the job done without the people inside the organization. And that's the same way as we have to look at it. People can't do what they need to do without us. We're the biggest asset they can have. And so being able to turn that into, you know, it is a sales job. I'm selling myself and what I can offer you and how to do it. It's not bragging, it's not being boastful. It's really, I'm just telling you how to use this asset in the best way to get the best benefit for your company if you bring me here and let me help you make it happen.
Yeah, I think we're all, if this is your first time getting to know Chellie, I think you're all seeing, the why Chellie's been successful because obviously she knows what she has all the elements. She's clearly intelligent, knows what she's talking about, has a lot of talent and skill, and yet, which I think is the missing ingredient for so many people, has that persistence to just keep going. Good times, bad times. And I think what you said about, just take whatever opportunities are in front of you at that moment in time. Because I do hear a lot of people say, well, I got a chance to speak, but it's in front of this group and there's only like 10, 12 people that are going to be there. Well, you know what? This is a great opportunity for you to speak to 10 to 12 people and to work on your message, to become a better speaker, to develop your skill. Go. If this is what you want to do, go. Don't look the little, but I want to speak on the big stage. Well, guess what? If you want to speak on the big stage, you got to learn how to speak on the small stage first. So that's amazing. Charlotte, what advice would you give to somebody who's just getting started? What would you say now that you are at this part of your journey, looking back, maybe even to your younger self, who was just, what advice would you give?
Yeah, so probably the piece of advice that I would give is not being afraid to invest in yourself and the journey. You know, a lot of people think I have to do it on my own.
Mhm.
And, you know, I have a background in marketing and PR. I do that professionally. So, you know, the social media, the blogging, all that kind of stuff was super easy for me. Um, and something I was very comfortable with. But there were other pieces of my career or building the business that I didn't know as much about. And, you know, to be successful, you have to realize that there's things I don't know and that there's other people out there who know it. And I would be a fool to sit here and try to send myself back to school and learn it and spend 5 or 6 years trying to learn it when
Right.
I can invest, you know, I can take my time is worth something. And so if I can invest in a coach or I can invest in a program or I can invest in, you know, a workshop that's coming up, a training or something, and go sit and I can get everything I need to help me move along into that kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it's super smart because what it's saying is that I'm willing to admit there's things I don't know. I need help to get to the next stage of where I'm going. And instead of sitting there and struggling and spinning your wheels and getting frustrated to the point where you want to quit doing something, then if you're passionate about it and you know it's a message that's going to resonate with people and it's something that they need, take that shot. You know, I'm not saying go mortgage your house to do it. Be reasonable about it, but just take that shot and realize that your dream is worth investing in
Right.
and that you don't have to go it alone, that there's people out there, there's programs out there, there's workshops out there, there's communities out there that you can join that will cheer you on and that will give you the inspiration, the advice. And what I've learned along the way is even in non-paid instances is that most people are willing to share their journey with you. And especially like when I was writing the Culture Secrets book, you know, we were talking about I remember Stephen Childs, he's with Panasonic, that was talking about their failed attempt at culture. You
Mm.
know, a lot of people don't want to talk about what went wrong. And, you know, he told me I did it all wrong to begin with, and this is why it was wrong, and this is why it didn't work. And I tell this story over and over again so people don't do the same thing I did and they can start from here instead of from there. And I think most entrepreneurs and most people that are building their businesses will do that same thing for you. So if you see somebody that's doing something, reach out to them and ask them, "Hey, how are you making that happen? I want to pick your brain, you know? I mean, take them to coffee, take them to lunch, do whatever it, you know, it is. Build that relationship
Yeah.
and ask them because most people, you know, most people are more than happy to help somebody else along their journey too. It's flattering. You feel like, you know, like somebody's recognizing what I'm doing and everything else. But even more than that, it's like most of us, we want everybody else to be successful too. And if I can help you some way do that, I'm more than willing to do that. And so I think that's the piece of advice that I would get is not be afraid to ask people, hey, do you see something I can do better? Or can you help me get better at this? Or
Mm.
Am I am I totally, you know, like or use them as a sounding board, like, "This is my idea. Can you help me tweak it? Help me flesh it out? Help me think it through?" You know, we get so close to our own ideas and the things that we're doing that sometimes we don't see the big picture anymore. And when you share it with people and you bring other people into that vision and that journey with you, sometimes you're surprised, like, sometimes they see a piece that you missed and you're like, "Oh my god, yeah, that's the key I've been missing because I'm
Right.
so close and I got so focused on this one little piece that I didn't get to see this bigger piece that's sitting out there because I couldn't get past this to get to there." And so that would probably be my piece of advice is not being afraid to invest in yourself and being willing to talk to people and ask for their input and being willing to share what's going on with you, you know, and so that you can all move together on that success journey.
Yeah, I agree because there's all of us know certain things. All of us know, like, we all have expertise in certain areas of life, but none of us know all of it. None of us know every last piece. And if you want to learn those other pieces, you're right. There's one of two ways of it happening. One is you're going to pay through experience, which is I could screw this up 20 times in a row before I finally figure it out, which there's a cost to that. You know, you may be having to pay money to do that, plus all the time.
Or you're
and
not
the
getting
energy,
any sleep at night.
and like, yeah, the stress, all of that. Or you could go hire somebody for an hour, ask them, how did you do that? And get the answer and keep going. And I agree wholly. And that's what we keep telling people and teaching people in Design Launch Grow. You need three things. You need a roadmap or content that shows you what you should be doing and how you need to do it. You need coaches who can um, help you answer your questions and guide you on the individual decisions so that you don't get stuck along the way. And you need community around you to give you fresh ideas, fresh perspective, encouragement on those days when you need it. Because to be honest, we all have those days where that white flag is sitting in our hand and we're going, should I throw it? Because that's how I feel today. So, well, this has been amazing. Chellie, how can people connect with you if they want to learn more about you?
Well, like I said, I am prolific on social media.
Yeah,
LinkedIn is one of my favorite platforms. You can find me on LinkedIn. My website is chellephillips.com. That's a great way to reach out to me. There's tons of free resources there too if you're interested in the career and culture world and workshops and all that kind of stuff. But I love to connect. I love to have conversations. So if you reach out, and I'll probably say hi right back. So
that's true. She is a very sweet, friendly Southern lady. So you'll have no problem there. I can validate that. So, well, Chellie, thanks so much for joining us here today. Everybody, if you want to learn more about Chellie, go to chellephillips.com, or like I said, she said she's on LinkedIn a lot. I know she's on Facebook a lot as well because I see her there a lot as well.
there too.
And so check her out there. Otherwise, that's it for today. Everybody have a great day, and we will see you again next time.